Welcome to a very special episode of Bucket List Coach Web Show Live, aviation style, and we're celebrating the life of the amazing Pete Pettigrew. Well, hello. This is Cindy, your host, and my co-host today is Paul Chappie Ward, USS Midway Museum, and I'm going to give a little backstory. So I live here in Southern California, in Orange County, originally from Northern California, and my love for aviation began living in the backyard pretty much of Travis Air Force Base. I lived about 10, 12 minutes from Travis Air Force Base, and I was probably the only 16-year-old who got excited by a C-5 flying over. And then several years later, I ended up working for the Navy on a submarine, civil service. And that same year is when the original Top Gun came out. And just a couple years ago, about 3-4 years ago, I met Mr. Paul Chappie Ward at the USS Midway Museum, and he has been phenomenal. I can't thank him enough for all the connections that he's put in front of me. I mean, there's so many great connections. And just, I believe just about 3.5 years ago, we added aviation to this bucket list podcast. So it's full circle. I never was a pilot or anything in the Navy, but I'm actually paying it forward to anyone in the armed forces, especially Navy. So let's take it away. Let's talk about Pete, and then we'll go to Taco's interview here shortly.
Okay, well, we're here to just celebrate a great man, a great life, a great naval aviator, and a great friend, Pete Pettigrew. So that's why we're here. So as Cindy was talking about, the things in your life, first time I met Pete was just like anybody else as a fan of Top Gun. You see the movie, and I've got that DVD, and part of the package on the DVD was the interviews with the producers, the directors, and the consultants. And there's Pete Pettigrew and Viper. So he's talking about his experiences and the things that he did with the movie. And I thought, that's pretty cool. And that's back, we're looking at 1986 and all the way through about, 2000s. And I would see that video and I'd watch those interviews time and time again. And things kind of changed for me in 2018 when I became a docent on the Midway. I'm a newbie. And one of the first opportunities I had to do something besides doing a standard watch, being there on a Sunday or a Tuesday or whatever, was what we call behind the scenes tours. That's where the membership of the museum comes and they have a breakfast. And then there's like 4 different tours that they can take. There are areas behind the scenes. They're either restored or they're in their natural state. So everybody gets to go to those. There's also the flight simulators. So they have a choice between the three tours and also the flight simulators. Well, being a newbie, I thought, okay, I just want to kind of be paired up with a docent lead. I mean, this person knows where they're going and they're going to be talking to the guest as we go from space to space to space. And I can observe that. And my role would be a tell-in Charlie. And that's where, you've got the 15 to 20 people. I'm at the tail end, and I'm herding cats. I'm making sure they're in space. And I'm supposed to talk to the presenter and keep them on track. They've got 15 minutes in that spot, 10 minutes to talk about the area, 5 minutes to do Q&A, and then you move on. So I went to the training, and we went through the process, and I pretty much got it down. And then on that Saturday morning, I'm sitting at the table and I'm looking at the program and at the schedule and itinerary. And I'm like, okay, I'm in Group C. I've got, Tour C, that's the air ops areas. And we're going to be going to the F4 ready room. I knew that. And then it says presenter, Rear Admiral Pete Viper Pettigrew.
Wow.
And I mean, I wasn't keyed up enough about being, Lieutenant Charlie for the first time. And all of a sudden, here it is. Rear Admiral Pete Viper Pettigrew. And now I'm thinking to myself, I've got to, first of all, tell a Rear Admiral that it's time to move on and to, keep your 15 minutes, your 2-minute talk, 5 minutes, and then move on. And I got to tell the Rear, and of all people, it's not just a 2-star, it's Viper. So our groups go on their merry way, and we hit the first 3 areas, and we get to the F4 ready room 6. And I walk in there, and there is Pete. I mean, bigger than life. I mean, the guy stands, over 6 feet tall, and distinguished white hair. And so I just reviewed, I'm the tell-in Charlie. You've got your 10 minutes, so I'm going to give you a thumbs up when we're ready to go. I'm going to give you the 5-minute warning, 1 minute to wrap it up, and then I'm going to give you the we're out of here thing. And so I get to the back of the room, and just like anybody else, I'm enthralled by hearing the stories, but I'm thinking to myself, that classic line from the movie, holy crap, it's Viper.
Yeah.
And that's all I can think of, for these 15 minutes that I have in that space. And of course, I get the group in and get them out. And then afterwards, we're debriefing. And I got to tell you that he put me so much at ease that day. And just his mannerisms. I mean, of course, being a 2-star, he is professional. He's the consummate. But this guy was he made you feel at home. You didn't feel like you were intruding on him, or he really didn't intimidate. And that's what I was expecting. Here he is, this 2-star, the Viper, the consultant for the movie, and also doing the bit part of being Charlie State, the old man. So what I learned from 2018 on, Pete was such a great team member as well as leader. I mean, he in our meetings, he never postured himself like, "Look who I am, look what I've done." He was just one of the guys.
Very humble, yes.
Very humble, and the thing is, his wit and humor. I mean, you've heard it quoted time and time again, where he felt that his role in the Top Gun movie was, basically to keep the thing from becoming a musical. That was his big contribution, and keeping things on track, which he did. And that was one of the things that he always brought. He kept you focused, and he kept you on task. But his wit, one of the first times I heard him introduced him as, when he introduced himself, he said, when I was a young man and the call sign they gave me was Viper, now that I'm older, they call me Diaper. That's my call sign. And so he went from Viper to Diaper. But, even within the docent corps, he was never, Viper or Admiral. He was just Pete. And so, and he always brought out the best in us. It was just one of those kind of great things. And when you look back at his life and his career, a lot of people don't know, but he was a competitive swimmer. He was at Stanford in college, 2-time All-American. He was on the national swim team, water polo team, 1963, a champion. So it's pretty cool. And then in 2014, he's 70 plus. I'm now at that age that he did this, but in September of 2014, he and another group of people set a world record for the Catalina channel swim. It was called, what was it? The Swell Guys 2. And a teammate on that. And they did the channel swim in like 10 hours and 57 minutes. So, I mean, very competitive, but a member of a team. And a little known fact too, everybody talks about his naval career, and you can look that up. I mean, the medals and the honors that he received for his aviation career, and of course being at Top Gun school as an instructor. But his backseater a lot of people don't realize who his backseater was. His backseater was Lieutenant J.G. Mike Wizard McCabe, who went on to become the XO at Top Gun and went on to become a 3-star, a vice admiral, and he was in charge of the Pacific Fleet. So it was pretty cool.
So he actually truly lived out his dash. He had a naval career, and he was a swimmer, and just wow, he definitely lived out his bucket list for sure. So and I remember meeting him a couple of years ago. He was so nice and friendly, and he says, "You want me to put coach?" Because David Bronick, I'll do a shout out to David Bronick, named my call sign coach. So I want to do a shout out to him as well. But I thank you, Chappie, for making that happen. Because if I wasn't having the opportunity to meet you all those years ago, we wouldn't be able to do all these amazing aviation podcasts. So let's go to the Taco video. So if you could tell people a little background about Taco.
Well, Taco is a lieutenant colonel retired from the Marine Corps and has got a wonderful, and by the way, if you want to hear some great videos and interviews with Pete, this is one. Tall Tales with Taco. And I think this was like episode 31 or something like that.
Oh, episode 10. Yeah, so I'm going to play the video real quick.
Okay.
Go back there.
I was going to go to college, and I didn't want to have my parents pay for it. Sure. So my senior year in high school, I went down to the counselor, and I said, "What's this about ROTC?" And he goes into his desk and pulls out a piece of paper, and he says, "Fill this out and give it back to me." So I filled it out, and about 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the Navy, go take this test. And then, I took the test, did the interviews, got accepted at Stanford. And I thought, what a deal. They're going to pay for me to go to college.
Sure.
But the kicker is that they pay for that, but you got to pay them back.
Right. 6 years of your life, Sweet Pea. 6 years. A lot of things can happen in 6 years. We go to war.
Yeah, exactly right.
Officer and gentlemen.
So I decided I did ROTC midshipman cruises, and I really liked the flying aspects and decided I want to be a fighter pilot. So I went down to flight school and I got in the last class, officers class in pre-flight. Mm-hmm. So it was like end of November 1964.
Right. And so when you got into the fleet, though, you were flying F9s to start with? Or what were you flying?
I'm not that old.
No, you're not. I'm not implying you're old, sir, but F9, that was around, in the 50s and 60s. So.
No, it was a training command airplane.
Oh, the F9s. All right, gotcha.
I flew T-34s. Then I went to Meridian, flew T-2s. Then I went to Beeville, Texas.
Right.
And I decided to go to Beeville instead of Kingsville because Beeville had F-11s. And I wanted to fly the F-11 because it was the Blue Angels airplane.
Oh, okay.
And turned out it was a dog.
Sure.
But I flew that and then went into the fleet and got an F-4 squadron on the West Coast. So I went to Miramar, and then the rest is, as I say, history.
So as you progressed, you went the first Top Gun class, right?
No. Oh, yeah. You made
you checked into Top Gun in 1969.
You made a little bit of an error. I never went as a student to Top Gun.
No, you were an instructor.
I started out as an instructor about the third class they had. Oh. I left from 121 and went over and taught at Top Gun. Right. And I taught air to ground, of all things. A lot of people don't know when we first started Top Gun, we had air to ground, and I was the air to ground instructor. So the first week of classes was air to ground. And so we did a week of air to ground and then 3 weeks of air to air.
So you flying the F4. Were you going against the A4, like even in the movie? But you guys had A4s.
Yeah, and I was at that time. I was flying both the A4 and the F4.
So then, fast forward in 1972, Vietnam is winding down. What ship are you on? And the day that you shot down the Meg?
I did a cruise on the two cruises on the Coral Sea.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my wings in '66. Finished the RAG in like January of '67. Went to VF-151, the Vigilantes, which is now an F-18 squadron, in F-4Bs, and then did 2 cruises on the Coral Sea. So I immediately went into combat. So as soon as I got qualified in the F4, I deployed, and so '67. And part of '68, I was over North Vietnam on the Coral Sea. And then I got about, in those 2 cruises, I got about 200 combat missions or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Can you only imagine being in a docent, the locker room before we get our briefing, just sitting around with guys like him? I mean, that's one of those experiences that I can't express how grateful I am that I had that honor and that privilege of sitting at a table with a Pete Pettigrew, a Vern Jumper, a Jack Inch, and the list goes on of these great aviators and heroes, and to see them pass into history, that's hard. Because you miss that, because what you see with Pete is what you got.
Wow. And I told you I'd have some waterworks. I knew I would.
Yeah.
It's when I heard of his passing a few days ago, I took it pretty hard. And thanks again for the museum. I would do a shout out to the museum to have that event that they did. Of course, the movie night, and then following 2 days later was where they had all the pilots. And I literally spent, I want to say, probably 3 hours at the F4.
Yeah.
And then another pilot, I can't recall his name, introduced me to Jack. He goes, if you want someone on your podcast that's legendary, you need to have Jack. So just a couple days ago, I scheduled with Jack, and he's coming on the 19th. So I did have a little waterworks when I was talking to Jack, and they were wondering, wow, why is she so emotional? I was like, well, this is my mission, is to be a part of the Navy. Although I wasn't part of the Navy, but I'm sharing my heart, and I'm getting all these aviators and anybody that was in the Navy that has a great story. It just means so much to me. So we have a lot of messages here. So let's see. First, we have Deborah.
Oh, hey.
The amazing Doug Sellers. Linda. Mark Jumper. And our friend Amarpreet there in Sacramento.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so Amarpreet, go ahead and post any kind of memories that you had here of him. And
so,
yep.
So, Cindy, you've got some of the photos that I sent to you. Can you flash them? I'm going to talk about them.
Yes, I'm actually going to go to that page right now.
Okay.
Go back.
So while she's coming up with that, I was telling you about meeting Pete the first time in the F4 ready room. What was also intimidating was when you take a look at the boards, you'll find Pete's name, he and McCabe's name, because they have a listing of all the MiG kills in the Vietnam War of all the naval aviators. And you'll see his name and also Mike's name on the 6th of May, 1972, off the Coral Sea. Well, excuse me, they were off the Kitty Hawk when they did that. Here's a picture of Pete, and he's doing that 70-plus-year-old men's group doing that swimming across the channel, and there he is with the observer.
Wow.
But can you, he's 72 at that time. I can hardly get out of bed and tie my shoes and get a cup of coffee, much less piano. I mean, this guy was fit.
We got the next one.
Okay, and that's Pete and I. We were getting ready for a Top Gun movie night. Even though he was off the Coral Sea, number 42, that was one of the sister ships. And so being a naval aviator, there's no other place that Pete would rather be than on the flight deck of the Midway, especially when it comes to meeting the aviators and also Midway movie night. And he would sit there. We hadn't got the tablecloth out yet, or his sign, or all of his pictures, but he would spend, a couple of hours meeting and greeting, and just when people walk away from being with Pete, I mean, it just a great experience. There is Pete. He was doing the Saturday afternoon traps, and I had a group of cadets from the Civil Air Patrol, Squadron 201 in South San Diego. And he took time not only after his talk, because they alternate, presenters to give you a break. During his break, he spent time with each of those cadets and just share with them his life experience, but also pep them up. I mean, they walked away going, we met not just a great aviator, but a great individual. I mean, talk about a role model. And so he was encouraging them to pursue their education, to do great things, to be a member of a team. There's Pete in his yellow hat, one of our docents.
And this right here, this is from the Top Gun days we had a couple years ago. The second signature, that's from Pete.
Yeah.
This is something that I do not wear. I have it. I have a bucket list room that has all the bucket list activities I've done, and I just keep it there. And then here is what he signed here, Coach. And of course, me and Buzz the Tower. So he said Buzz the Tower, Pete Pettigrew, Viper.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
Okay. I did have another picture that I had sent to you with him and his team. And on that team of guys, there was Steve Cross, who was another one of our docents. So,
find that.
Yeah.
Is that on Messenger?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if it was on Facebook Messenger or your regular phone message.
Let me see here. You said that one this morning?
Uh-huh.
Is that with the swim team?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and talk about him for a few more minutes. I'm going to upload it to the web show real quick.
Okay, will do. But again, when Cindy was just showing, a shirt with his signature, of all the regrets I have is I never got an autograph. I don't have anything other than the one photo of Pete and I at a Top Gun night. But the thing is, it's not those tangible things that you hang on to. It's those memories of just spending the time and hearing the stories and watching him in that environment of, like I said, working with those cadets and encouraging them, just being one of the guys in the docent locker and just telling the stories. I mean, that is such a, like I said before, it's such a great environment when you can just hear them. Yeah, I did this. Oh yeah. I remember this, and and they just relate so well to each other. There's no heroes. There's no posturing. Okay, there you go. There's Pete on the end, and the guy in that dark shirt with the khaki pants. That's Steve Cross, one of our other docents. So in and off the ship, he was just a great team member, and always brought out the best in you.
And we can go a little bit longer because normally my aviation goes up to 45. We're about at 25 minutes. Did you want to do a longer podcast today, or you want to close out at 30 after?
Oh, we can close out at 30 after, I think. So
anything going on with the museum and coming up? Any events?
The only major event that I know of is the 4th of July, the big, boom blast. And so those tickets have already been sold. There's no way to get those, but always a big night. So
I always talk about the end of the show. What is the one thing? Well, let's talk about summer instead of just this weekend. What is the one thing you would like to do this summer to pay it forward to another individual?
Oh gosh. I always have in my pocket a bunch of guest passes, and I want people to experience the Midway like I get to experience it. So I have a goal of how many tickets a month I pass out to people so they can share that wonderful, honor the legend and live the adventure, and be on board the Midway, because it's not just a ship. Yeah, I mean, it's history and the people that made the history. And for me, I know on Sunday I'm going to be hitting the F4 ready room 6, because I'm going to be able to see Pete's name on the wall. Just
we freeze up here. I'll wait for him to come back on. Looks like we froze up.
Okay, am I back?
Oh, you're back.
Yeah. So, any other questions you may have about Pete? Or
well, I want to talk about the pay it forward that I want to do aviation wise. So I actually have a travel agency, and so what I want to do is anybody who goes to Bucket List Coach web show and subscribes and comments, I'm going to add to Chappie. So Chappie, would you like to give 2 tickets away to the museum? And I'll give $50 towards a hotel if anybody wants to come out to San Diego.
You got it.
Yeah. So that's what we'll do for Pay It Forward. And kind of on the flip side, some of the things I do here in Huntington Beach is I give back to different charities. And I want to do a shout out for tomorrow. We have my surf instructor actually right at the Huntington Pier from 9 to 12:30. If you want to take a ride up from San Diego to come out and visit us, he's actually taking some veterans out on surfboards, paying it forward through a local Rotary who's paying for the lessons. So just wanted to do a shout out to all our veterans, and always make sure that you say thank you for your service. If you see a Vietnam vet, say thank you for coming home. Make a difference. Whether you're traveling, like when I'm on a cruise ship, I always say thank you for your service. You're at the grocery store, wherever you're at, take the time to thank a veteran, because they have done so much for our country. So what would you like to say about veterans?
Oh, I mean, they are what makes America great, because they gave knowing that they may have to give the ultimate sacrifice. And so, I mean, I'm so appreciative of their service and of the opportunity I get to work with them every day of the week that I'm on the Midway. So just a great thing. You did ask me to conclude our time of honoring Pete with a word of prayer. Is that all right?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Well, let's pray. Eternal Father, strong to save. In these moments, we reflected and remembered the life of Pete Pettigrew, Viper. In this life, he served you faithfully as a husband, father, a grandfather, a naval aviator, a USS Midway docent, and most of all, our friend. In living, Pete instilled the values that he cherished: service, dedication, and integrity. In life, Pete transformed us by giving us a vision of what leadership and service could be. The laughter, the shared experiences of Pete will always be etched in our hearts. In our grief, we are reminded of the esteem which we held him. We honor Pete's legacy and the impact that he had on our lives. So may his memory inspire us to live with the same kind of kindness and service that he exhibited. May we find comfort in knowing that he is forever a part of us. Amen.
Wow, thank you. And thank you for everyone who came on today and supporting Chappie and I. And one last thing, Chappie. Why do aviation geeks need to come out to San Diego at the USS Midway Museum?
Well, San Diego is basically the birthplace of naval aviation. When you stand on the flight deck and you look across and see North Island, you just have to go right back to, the flying school by Glenn Curtis there, and what took place. So, and of course, every aircraft that we have on the Midway is an authentic, well, except for the Devastator, the torpedo bomber, but it's an authentic aircraft flown off of a carrier from 45 to 92, the years of the Midway service. So you've got great aviation history there. Plus, and I don't want to get ahead of Cindy on this, but in a couple of weeks, you can be having Jack Inch on board, one of our Midway veterans, who will tell you that Midway still owes him one landing because he took off and was shot down on a second tour. I'm not going to get into the whole story there, but he still says Midway owes him a landing. But you're with the people that made the history, and you can meet those individuals, and just like Pete, to hear their stories, and they'll be forever with you.
As a matter of fact, Jack will be on this very podcast on the 19th of August, National Aviation Day, I believe at 2 p.m. So if you follow Bucket List Coach Web Show on any of the platforms, you could actually see the podcast there. We will be going live just like here on Facebook and on YouTube. So thank you, Chappie, for all the amazing connections and making my aviation podcast bucket list come true. So cool. I'm going to put you in the green room and we'll chat soon.
Excellent. Thank you much, Cindy.
Okay, hang tight. All right. Thank you so much. Make sure you go to Bucket List Coach Web Show Live. And if you go to where'scindynow.com YouTube page, you post a comment and share this video. Chappie will give you 2 tickets to the Midway, and I'll give you $50 towards your hotel. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you here on the other side.